All right, welcome in everyone. My name's John, and this is the Aussie Endurance Series. So this morning we're going to do a race recap of our Week 7 sprint races because there was quite a bit of chaos and kerfuffle, and we just want to go through and just try and help um, educate, inform, coach our drivers, just in case they're aware of things or might not be aware of things that they're doing that they probably should be or shouldn't be doing. um, in order to try and help clean up the racing and just provide a coaching platform for our guys. All right, we're just going to go through each of the incidents one by one, and I've removed all the liveries so nobody should know who is who, but I'm sure we can all guess between the drivers. And it's not about placing blame on anyone. That's absolutely not what we're trying to do here today. We're trying to talk about mitigation. So we're talking about how to avoid the incidents from occurring in the future. And we're going to look at all perspectives from the car in front, car behind, cars around, and just talk about how and what we can be doing to try and avoid these crashes. All right, so we'll get straight onto the first incident. So race one was relatively clean, but there were a few minor things. We're not going to worry about self-spinners and self-crashing here today. So there was a few self-spinners just getting caught out on curbing and things like that. Might be a few of those early on. Let's try and skip through. All right, here was the first major one that happened during the race. So this is a car has tried to make an overtake, so we'll go right back to where it started. So seeing here, we've got a prototype approaching the back of the GT4 queue. He goes to go around the outside, but then the GT4 split. He checks up, sees a gap, and he goes, okay, I can fit through here. Then he brakes and slightly turns into the right, and the GT4 fails to brake and then it collects the rear end. So the prototype got through okay. Oh, what happened there? The prototype got through okay, but this poor GT4, they might have already gone back to pits. No, what happened to them? There we go. This poor GT4 has copped the worst of it. So let's talk about what could have been done here. So firstly, let's get back to where it sort of all came undone. So these two GT4s are battling for position, but it's important to understand that when you've got multi-class racing, when you've got the multi-class cars coming up behind, you need to sort of start thinking about cooperation on track, and the battle sort of pauses for momentarily. So these two cars, in reality, should stay line astern. They're battling at this stage. Car behind does an overrunner, really good move here. So he stays nice and wide. Car in front is defending. Car on the outside turns in, does a nice overrunner, starts getting up the inside. There might be a little bit of contact there. I'm not quite sure. Let's see if I can get the chopper cam here. So he's definitely had to try and avoid the rear end there. Very good avoidance there. But as a result, he's gone off track here. So this car, at this point here, this car behind needed to yield that position because there wasn't enough racing room. So let's jump on board. Let's make that the actual cockpit camera. And let's get on the correct car. So come back here, beautiful over under, gone to make the move up the inside, not enough room. So at this point here, this car behind needs to yield. He needs to yield the fact that he's not going to have enough room. That car in front is moving to the right to defend, which he's more than welcome to do, but only once. But he's still trying to send it. So this car behind needs to be a bit more patient and needs to work on the overtake more effectively rather than trying to send it. So he's tried to send it, tried to avoid the car by going off track, but also stayed in the throttle. So he's gone off track there, but stayed flat out. So this is very risky. So this car needs to just ease up a bit more, especially when you're having to go off track to avoid another car. You need to ease off and just be, just gentle throttle. This will mitigate spinning and crashing. At this stage, anything could have happened here. It could have washed out, slipped up, spat sideways, anything. So you never know. And there's also bumps sometimes on the outside off the white line too. So got to be very careful. So this is not being a careful racer. This is a act of desperation. So this driver just needs to ease up just a little bit. Just appreciate he went for the over-under. The door got shut, which is more than fair of the car in front. He never got overlapped, so the car in front is permitted to move across one time. And then, yeah, so the car behind just needs to check up and then tuck back in. So now this flows on. So because this car has done this, he's spooked the car in front. And so now they have moved over in case that car is trying to get back on. And he also would have heard car right by this stage. You can see that he's definitely got the overlap there. So he's heard car right, and he's like, oh shit, okay, I need to leave racing room per the AES rules, which is perfect. He's moved over and given that racing room, and he's moved right over, which is good to see. We don't want to see people squeezing each other because Netco takes over too often as well. So he's done the right thing. Car behind, acting a little bit desperately, but now he's got the room. Now he's fair enough to race. Okay, now this is where it gets tricky. LMP3 is trying to come through. He did the right thing. Let's just back up a little bit and just check what he's doing. So he's going to go around the outside, realize, oh no, there's not enough room, and then he's eased up. And you can see that he's matched the pace of the cars in front rather than, try to stay flat out. Look at the difference in speed here. Flying around, eased up, done the right thing. Now at this stage, the car ahead of him on the left has moved over to the left a bit more. Car on the right's holding on to the right, and he's like, okay, I can fit through this gap here now. I've got enough room. It's very tight, but he knows if he starts to send it, then the other cars on the outside will hopefully open up, which they do. So car left moves over, car right moves over. Plenty of room. Everybody's 3 wide, but plenty of room. Like, no netco should be getting involved in this, so everybody is playing the game. Now this is where it comes unstuck. So we'll try and get a nice close angle of the rear here. I might do this and then come back through the car. Okay, what I want to focus on here is the brake light. So what I want to see is exactly when this car starts to brake, which is right now. So now he is on the brakes. This is important to understand. So what he's doing is he's seeing the corners coming up with 3 wide. He hasn't quite got clear yet. He might have heard clear right, or he's heard car left, but he doesn't know that he's clear right. So he's in the mindset that, okay, I need to be ready to take this corner 3 wide. So I need to slow down, ease up, and hold my line all the way around. So he's broken a little bit early. And if we notice, this car next to him is also braking. So at very similar times, these two guys racing smart, both realize, you know what, with 3 wide still, we both have to ease up and make sure we have the grip to get around this corner. So both these cars are doing the right thing. This car, however, let me do that same thing here. This car, however, is trying to stay in the fight a little bit too much. And so the mindset of this driver is most likely, I'm not going to say it is, but it's most likely that he wants to stay in the fight. He doesn't want to yield this position. He's got a really good over-under. He's got up alongside, and he's trying to stay in this fight with this car. He knows the prototype can get through there. He expects the prototype to go deep. But unfortunately, those 2 cars are braking. He is yet to brake. Hasn't broken. Still hasn't. Now he brakes. So you can see the difference there in track distance between these 2 braking roughly here at the 150. And then this car behind is not braking until, at least 25 meters later, at least 20 meters later. That's a huge difference. So the cars ahead are probably braking gently, not braking too hard yet, but they're washing off speed so they can make this corner together. So what needs to happen here is as soon as you got a car starting to come past, and it's hard if you're not on triple screen, as you can see here, you probably can't see there's a car left, but he should absolutely have a spotter on, and a spotter should be saying, 3 wide, and then he knows he's got 2 cars on his left. He should be back here, well before the braking mark, needs to be lifting. So he needs to be lifting in order to guarantee the pass from the prototype. So where these guys are braking, because you don't need to brake until 100 board almost. So he needs to be lifting in any case. So to guarantee the pass, and then he can tuck in behind the prototype, and then still keep his position inside of the other GT4 that he's battling. But what he's also got to be aware of is another LMP3 behind, who's also hoping to try and get through here. So this guy's trying to follow the car in front. But he's also got to be patient. And let's just have a quick look. He is. He's being patient. He's holding his distance, seeing him getting through, and hoping that he can follow him through. But yeah, good awareness there. So in reality, it's up to this car here. I wish I could take numbers off, but it's up to this car here to ease up, to lift off the throttle, guarantee the pass of the prototype, and then tuck back in behind. I don't have a good example of this, unfortunately, but hopefully that explanation explains it well enough. But again, it comes all the way back here to this move here. So this is all fair enough. This is all on. Good to go. Right here needs to be a checkup. And if he checked up here, then it would have been, he would have tucked in behind, and he would have been following like these guys are up here. So these guys, line of stern, following each other. So as soon as you get a prototype coming up alongside, which you should know because it should be, you should have your mirrors on, so you'll know. Prototype coming alongside, they hold their line, give room, let the prototype around the outside. So yeah, this car being a little bit too aggressive caused the car ahead to move over to give room, which the flow on was the prototype trying to split them. Both the outside cars are gently braking to try and wash off a bit of speed so they can all make this corner together. And then this car's still trying to stay in it too deep and then causing a contact, unfortunately. So what else happens here is that this car ahead also moves across slightly. So you can see that once he starts braking, he starts moving across. It's not much, it's very subtle, and it's very hard on a track like this where it's braking into a curved area, and you can't brake too hard while turning in these things because you will lock up the rear. So as a consequence of trying to brake in a straight line, he's had to pitch his nose in a little bit, and he's actually aiming for almost where that green car is at the moment. He's aiming for a mid-track turn-in point. So he's aiming for the right spot, but unfortunately he's moved across a little bit at the same time. And let's just check this car behind. You can see how far off the white line this car is as well. So yeah, there's definitely room on the right there. But again, people don't really know, unless you really know the limits of your car, he probably thinks he's on that white line based on what you can see in the cockpit view. So yeah, very hard. So mitigation here, like I said, so comes back to this point right here. Over under, door gets shut. Mitigation is lift off, tuck in, and then try again later. And that just comes down to patience and knowing that you have the pace to do so. And also at this stage, you've got 3 cars in front of you. So you don't want to be battling when you're this far back. What you want to be doing is trying to encourage that car in front of you to do their best laps to tow you back up to the cars ahead. Because if you're battling back here, you're going to create separation between that next car, that green Mustang up the road. If the more you're battling back here, the more you're going to create separation, and then you will never catch that lead pack. So ideally, these 2 cars in 4th and 5th would be working together to catch that lead pack, and then once they catch back up, then get back into the battling. This car ahead's done the right thing. He's heard car right, and he's moved over and left room. No dramas there. And then prototype, same thing, done the right thing. What he could have done, what they could have done, is once those cars split, said, you know what, this is too risky, I need to wait. And he could have stayed behind the Aston Martin. And what he can think, that mindset also could be, these guys are battling. I don't want to interfere with their battle. But contrary to that, he's also got someone right up his bum. So he's also battling. So this is where the cooperation on track comes in, and the multi-class cooperation. So once you hear, once you see those multi-class cars coming in for the pass, that's when you come in and you go, all right, I'm going to line up. I'm going to expect the car behind me to line up. Good sport. and the other class, I expect them to line up, and we can all make a clean pass. Once we pass, then we can get back into battling. So very straightforward. And then mitigation here, this car, when it starts to brake, needs to try and hold their line. Let's have a look on board and see what that looks like. Yeah, he probably thinks he's mid-track there, and he's pretty close to it. Like, from what the in-car perspective looks very, very close to mid-track. He can see him creeping over a little bit. So just a bit better track awareness for this person. And then for this car, mitigation here is to yield and drive to survive. So, you don't know what that prototype is going to try and achieve. You don't know when they're going to brake. So what you want to do is you want to guarantee the overtake. So you lift, guarantee their pass, tuck in behind, and then be ready to brake once they start braking. Oops, wrong button. Yeah, very unlucky for this driver. Got caught out there. Had a really good overtake, and then a really good over-under on the car they were battling with, and then, yeah, unfortunately got into contact. So this probably deemed as a racing incident because it's just two cars trying to get into the same space. Nothing intentional, nothing malice. We understand all that, and that's no worries. But yeah, you definitely got to drive to survive, because if you don't drive to survive, you're not going to get to the end. And there's a double contact on that one as well. So this car ahead has now got some damage. If we can see that, the front end's a bit bent up, and now it's going to hurt his pace as well. This car behind him, very well driven, very patient. They sat in the whole time and just said, you know what, I'm just going to follow you, which is what we like to see. So once they caught up to the pack, all right, battle is off. I'm just going to follow you, buddy. Wherever you go, I'm going to go. And you can see that mindset here, which is really good. It's like, oh, you can fit through there, or I can't fit through there. I'm going to ease up, take it easy, tuck in behind here. A little bit of a bump trying to check up. That's no dramas. And then crack on. So yeah, no dramas there from this car. And then this car behind has said, yep, I'm going to let you through. I'm not sure what happened back there, but I'm going to let you through. And now look at the gap between him and the green Mustang up the road. So that's quite a significant gap now through all that. And so that battling has caused, unnecessary time loss as well. So now these guys are going to struggle to try and catch back up to that lead pack, unless, of course, they start battling ahead. All right, that was a big one. What's happening here? Okay. So this is very unfortunate. Car ahead has lost control. Let's try and understand how. Okay, so they've got a little bit squirrely. Looks like the curbing. So full lock. So this is a bit telling here already. So they're very heavy steering. So they're probably understeering through this corner. And then as soon as they touch this outside ripple strip, they get a lot of grip. And the front turns hard. And when that front turns hard, the rear is going to come around and try and catch up. And then a bit of a counter steer. Done well to catch this, like very quick on the steering wheel. Just unfortunately in iRacing, once the car goes, there's not much you can do about it. And then a big lock up. So one of the tricks in iRacing is as soon as the car starts to get loose or out of control, you just fully press down on the brakes as hard as you can, lock up everything, and just get the car to stabilize. And then unfortunately the car behind made contact. But they did everything right here. They lost control. Accidents happen. Everybody's racing. Everyone's pushing hard. Everyone's doing 110%. And that's fine. He's on his own out front here. There's no one in front of him. So he's right to do that. Okay, let's jump on the car behind. Let's see what they can see to begin with. Okay, coming around the corner, we see a lot of smoke. All right, so as soon as we see that, we know that car ahead is out of control and we need to ease up. You can hear that they're accelerating. You can hear that they're gaining speed. So this is important to understand. Let's jump back. I hope I can see speed on their wheel. No, only RPM. All right, let's watch the RPM in any case. So come around the corner, hit the apex, RPM's increasing. 5,400, 55, 56, 57 still accelerating. Now they've maintained, now they're still accelerating. So they're still accelerating, hoping to get past here, and the hoping is not going to help. So what they need to do back here, as soon as they come around that corner and see smoke, they need to lift off and coast. Let's just check if anyone's behind. They've got a pack of GT4s behind, but there's enough distance there that they can lift and coast. If you need to warn cars behind that you are making a slower maneuver or you're off the racing pace, tap your brakes. Tap your brakes is like putting the hazard lights on, lets them know, oh shit, something's happening up ahead. And then those cars behind, start lifting off and coasting as well. So as soon as you see smoke ahead and you don't know which way that car is going to go, and you never will, even if you see it going one way, it could just all of a sudden whip and turn back the other way, or hit a wall and come flying back across the track. Happens all the time. It's really, it's just part of racing. So as soon as you see that, lift off the throttle, and so you can maneuver. So the slower you're going within reason, the more control you have over the car. And if you have to go off track to avoid, the consequences are less. So if you're going flat out and you have to go off track, you might hit a bump or, get a bit squirrely on the grass, you might lose control. But if you slow down a little bit, you might have more control off track. You might not, but you should have more control than going flat out. And as soon as you see that car is, washing out to the right and coming across the track to the right, the avoidance is off track. You just got to go off track. There's no way around that. You can't pull up, so you just have to go off track. So unfortunately, the reaction time here was just that fraction too late, and he realized too late, and then contact was made. So we'll do that at full speed in the cockpit. And that's a lot of damage, unfortunately. So that's quite significant, and that's probably going to be a toe and a meatball. So yeah, he should have a yellow flag, but I don't think they come up. iRacing is a bit slack on their yellow flags, which is a shame. If you use an app like iOverlay, that will actually flash up yellow for you because he's off the race pace or perpendicular to the track. So iOverlay will actually tell you caution ahead. And as soon as you see caution, anytime you see caution, you got to ease up. Not so much that you're going to get rear-ended, but enough that you can navigate and control what the car's going to do and navigate around the car in front. So yeah, he should have been off track on the grass, and a good example of that is these guys behind. So you can see, let's watch the speed of this guy. All right, so he was still flat out. So again, quite a risky maneuver. And he just got lucky. So what could have happened here, the car ahead could have punted him across the track right in front of this guy, and then he would have had nowhere to go. So again, these guys need to ease up. Let's see if these guys ease up. No, he's flat out as well, just following, hoping for the best. Oh, look how close this is. Look how close that was. Add netcode to that could have been contact. Let's check out the guy behind. Let's see if he eased up. No, he's flat out as well. Oh, he eased up a little bit at the end there. But yeah, just not early enough. So it's a catch-22 when racing. You obviously don't want to lose time. You don't want to lose pace, but you've got to drive to survive. So you've got to ease up and and navigate these people and these wrecks when they happen. And they're going to happen. It's racing. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. From the lowest levels to the highest levels, everybody makes a mistake every now and then. Accidentally dropping a tire, pushing hard, trying to keep up with someone in front of you. It's always going to happen. It's just how you navigate them behind you. So, and then again, you got another spinning car. So let's have a look at this one too. So you got not just one, but now two. There you go. That's a good example. So he's coming around here. Let's watch his speedo. He sees the other car, not sure where he's going to end up. So he's accelerating now, but he's lifted off. So you see that last dip reaction, that needs to be much earlier. So he lifts off at the last moment, thinking, at this point here, he's like, oh yeah, he's going to stay off the track. But then at this point here, when the car starts to spin out, he's like, oh shit. And then you can see his speed start to drop off. Well, it starts to here. So he's like, oh shit, he's sliding on track. I need to start easing off, and you can see his pace drop off. So he's probably on the brakes. Yep, he's on the brakes. But by this stage, he should be flat out trying to get past, trying to avoid the contact. But he should be on the brakes earlier to try and avoid contact. Let's check these guys out behind. So same thing. Only narrowly avoided this guy. Good example here. Okay, so he stays off the throttle. So you can see his pace, his speed is still dropping, dropping. Is he on the brakes? No, he's not on the brakes. So he doesn't need to be on the brakes because he's already washed off enough speed in order to avoid that. And then let's check out this car behind again. Ah, dang it. This car. So he's avoided him. He's accelerating. Still accelerating. Still accelerating. Now he's off. So that could be reaction time. But yeah, it's definitely about driving to survive. It's about, taking it easy when it's the right time to take it easy and to avoid contact and stuff like that. Actually, there's another car behind. I didn't see this one either. So let's have a look what happened, how he got through. Let's get to the point where I can see the smoke. Okay, here we go. 130 k's an hour. 131. So he's still accelerating. He's accelerating. Still accelerating. Car's parked right in the middle of the track. Still accelerating. Still accelerating. All right, so this is opportunistic. He's just flat out, So at this point here, there could be contact. You got to watch netcode. Like, iRacing's terrible for it sometimes. So that could have been easy netcode contact. And although you've missed him on your screen, that's a wheel out of alignment, and that's your race over. And this is only lap 7, so you're only halfway through the race, and your race could be over. So yeah, this car needed to ease up. And then this time, now he's eased off. Another car off track. Still eased off. Clear of the smoke. And the same thing here. Like, you don't know what's behind that smoke. It looks obvious, but sometimes that could be a car parked there. And it looks like they're moving, but they could be not. So yeah, so the Ford GT4's got through there. Unfortunately, the LMP3 didn't. And look at the damage and the consequence. So yeah, mitigation is just as soon as you see a car loose in front, or a caution, or a yellow, or anything that comes up to give you an indication that something's wrong up ahead, you've got to ease off. So flat out, all the way to the point of contact. And it's definitely no netcode there. That's all 100% contact. Netcode definitely was impacting. So interesting, the Armco did more damage than the That's very interesting, actually. More damage than the contact with the car. You can see the wheels pushed in. So it's definitely going to have bent steering, even if you didn't bump the Armco. And so forth. And that's 2 meatballs. So that car spinning, this car here that was spinning, he could have got away with that. But now he's got a meatball as well. So a simple mistake turning into 2 meatballs and then 2 toes. And this is important to understand because this happened at the start at Interlagos as well. A car got loose and other cars didn't ease up, and 2, maybe 3 cars collected that spinning car. And again, it's hard on cold tires. That car was on a corner, which is again hard because you might be already committed to the corner. And then the car spins, and then you've got no real options because the car's already maxed out. Whether it's whether you're understeering around the corner already, if you try and brake, you might lose the rear end because you've got cold tires. You can't accelerate because you're just going to push the car wide and things like that. So, like, fair enough, you're on a corner and then something happens in front of you, there's not much you can do. But when you have time like this and you've got time to react, that's absolutely when you need to ease up and pass safely. All right, let's move on. All right, a few more self-spinners. So we can talk through some of these. So in this case, this is braking maybe a little bit too late and then turning in too hard. So this car, the setup that they're using has a lot of front end grip. And as a consequence, the more front end you have, generally the less the rear will hang on. So he's turning in, braking maybe a little bit too late. And it doesn't look like he's really turning in hard at all, but maybe he's still braking too hard and the rear bias is too far rear. So to mitigate this one, I would be braking earlier. If the car is always feeling taily on entry, I would be softening the rear roll bar. This is in the setup in practice. I'd be softening the rear roll bar and I'd be moving the brake bias forward. So if I'm on track in the race, not much you can do about the ARB until you pit. But if I'm on track, then I would move the roll bar forward, increase the traction control, increase the ABS. Although that TC looks very high. I think Mercedes is backwards, so I think that's actually low. So this person might think that they have everything turned up, but they might actually be turning it down unintentionally. So that's something to be aware of as well. Some cars are backwards, which is really frustrating. But you need to read the information about your car in the setup advice. But yeah, braking earlier, moving the brake bias forward, making the ABS more active, let's say it that way, so it's not confusing, and making the TC a bit more active so that as soon as it starts to rotate, the TC might help in that regard. And then as soon as the car starts to go, just jam on those brakes, which looks like he's done there. Regain, get off track. Try not to rejoin on the track, so that's good. And then come back on the side that you're on, taking it easy, not to lose control again. And then the other cars can pass safely. All right, that's a good example of a rejoin. Well done. Yeah, it looks like a lot of people are struggling with rear end grip, so I'm not sure the setups that people are using. Yeah, interesting. Like that looks like it's letting go for no real reason. I'd love to get some advice from some of the more senior drivers in our league. But I feel like, for me, this suggests he doesn't have enough aero. This is lap 10. So he should have really, good tires, unless he's pitted at some stage. What we might do is just a quick check of whether or not he pitted. So let's go back a lap. No, he's been on track for all the laps, so this is end of lap 10. Yeah, very bizarre that it's this slippery this late in the race. Yeah, very bizarre. So in this case, definitely need to increase the traction control. Bump it right up. If you're really struggling with grip, bump it right up. Let it engage as soon as possible so that you know straight away that, oh shit, I'm losing traction, because maybe he can't feel it, maybe he's not seeing it. And Porsches are a bit temperamental as well. So in a Porsche, in most Porsche classes, whether it's GT4, GT3, Porsche Cup, Porsches like throttle to maintain grip. So if you go into a corner and lift off the throttle, you get what's called off. I can't think what you call it, but it's off throttle oversteer anyway. So you lift off, and it causes like a handbrake effect in the rear, where it checks up the rear tires so much that it's already on edge, and it loses that rear traction. I don't think that's what's happening here. It could be. Let's just. I'm trying to see the exact moment. Oh, it's back here. Let's grab that rear right suspension. No, rear left. Oh, it's way back here. So it's the change in elevation. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm not sure what to make of this one. Maybe a bit too much power for the amount of traction that the rear has. So all right, let's talk about mitigation anyway. So a trick that Sam taught me, Sam Smith, he's really smart, really experienced, and has a lot of knowledge in this stuff. If you have a car that's very oversteery, you want to make the car push more. So you want to lean into the understeer to try and keep the car balanced. So what you want to do is not so much slow the car up, but you want to try and maintain a higher speed so the car is more likely to understeer than oversteer. Also, I probably shouldn't be shifting down if you got a lot of rear end torque. So the downshift may have caused it. So he stays in fourth through this part, but then I think he feels like the RPMs are too low. So he shifts down to third to get the power down to try and power out of that corner. So yeah, it might just be a little bit too much. So just staying in fourth probably might have saved him. Let's jump back a lap and just see what he did on this lap. Yeah, you can see him very hesitant through there. You can see that he sort of straightens out, then gets back into it. So it might just be the change in undulation coming up and over the crest and through the dip. Maybe the dip is causing the front end to grip and bite and turn, and that's just causing the rear end to lose it. But yeah, very interesting nonetheless. So again, mitigation. I think I went too far. So mitigation again, I'd be moving the brake bias forward a little bit to try and. It could be tire temps too. Maybe his rear tires are a bit hotter. Maybe he's been cooking the rear tires for a few laps. So to try and help with tire management, move your brake bias forward. Because as you brake, it generates heat, and then if you move it forward, you'll generate more heat in the front. If you move it rearward, you'll generate more heat in the rear. So, brake bias is very critical for quite a few factors, not just balancing out the car under braking, but also balancing out tire temps, things like that. So it's a good opportunity to move the bias forward. If you start pinching those front tires, then you just need to brake a bit earlier and be a little bit lighter. But yeah, you can use that to try and balance out the pressure. So if you find your rear tire temps are higher than your front, then move your brake bias forward a little bit and brake a little bit earlier. Also, stay upper gear. So use the lower RPM, a little bit less horsepower to mitigate that rear end lighting up and just being smooth on the steering. But no, it's very, very bizarre. Actually, in this one, he doesn't straighten out. Oh, he starts to. But it's already letting go here, so I'm not sure. You can see the marks start forming on the road now. So this is where his rear left is letting go. So yeah, very interesting spin. As soon as he loses it, heavy on the brakes. And a good save there. But yeah, very interesting incident, that one. And then I'd be looking at, in the setup, I'd be looking at more aero, so trying to get more aero in the car. If the car is prone to being oversteery, then I would be lowering the rear end. What that does is reduces the amount of rake and makes the car more understeery by nature. I'd be decreasing the rear roll bar. So your roll bars help with stability of the car. So on entry, Actually, it's probably the front end because it's on. No, it's mid corner, so it's both. But it was on throttle. So on throttle, you look at the rear end. So if you're on throttle oversteer, you soften the rear end. If you are turning in and getting understeer, you can soften the front end. If you're turning in and getting oversteer, you can stiffen the front end. And there's a few things like that, a few tricks you can do. If you find you're getting understeer coming out of the corner, like you put the foot down and the front end washes out, you can stiffen the rear roll bar to try and help the car rotate. You can also add a bit of rake to help the car rotate by lifting the rear end suspension. So there's a few tricks there that you can be doing. Also, if it's constantly losing the rear end on throttle, then you can soften the springs in the rear end, but then lift it back up again, so you have good rake again. But as you throttle on, the rear should squat more. So yeah, there's a few tips there to try and mitigate that. All right, looks like this car has had the same incident. Yeah, very interesting. They're both having the same issue. So we'll have a chat with these guys and get an idea of what sort of setups they're using. Maybe they're using low downforce setups, misunderstanding how to set these cars up. Yeah, if you're never sure what setup you need for a track, always use high downforce. High downforce is the go-to for most tracks. The only time you need to lower the downforce is when you have, a massive straight that you need to try and take advantage of, like Le Mans, Daytona. And that's about it. Most other tracks that have big straights, like Spa, even those are still medium downforce, because you still need that grip for the middle section to get around a lot of those big corners. And then everything else, a track like Brands Hatch, tight, short technical tracks, absolutely high downforce. You want as much downforce as you can get and as much grip as you can get. Oh, let me turn that off. All right, next incident. Okay. All right, this is the start of race 2 now. So that's race 1 done. There was only one major incident and then a second minor one. So not too bad, but yeah, the major one in race 1, the mitigation was just, ease up and just, guarantee the overpass, get off the throttle, let them pass, and then tuck in behind and continue on. Okay, this is the start of race 2. And before the race starts, we've got a bit of an issue here with a car checking up out front of the queue. So we'll come back to here. So he's got pole position here. So he's trying to warm up his brakes, but he's just overdoing it a little bit. And as a result, we get a concertina effect behind, and these cars all get punted into each other. So if we jump on board here, so you can see his speed drops right down to 30 k's an hour. That's too slow. So fair enough if you want to warm up your brakes, but you just got to do it gradually. So you're best off just riding them for a moment like you did in the first instance. So that's acceptable. He's going from 90 down to 70, I think it is. Let's have a look. 98 down to 73. So 30k difference, that's acceptable and gives the cars behind time to react. See how they're reacting behind. But then he slowed right down to nearly a stop, and then that caused a big drama there. So make sure when you do this sort of stuff, maybe do one like that, and then create another big gap. So that the cars behind don't close right up, and then, yeah, get a big concertina. So this caused a bit of damage to the cars behind. Let's just go through once they sort of shake out a bit. So he's all right. They might have got it. No, they got a little bit of crimpled in, and then this car got a lot of front end damage. So that's a consequence of what we're doing out front to what happens at the rear. For this guy, this is what it looks like. So he doesn't even know what's happening. He's just, the field sort of pulls away, and then closes back up, and then just stops dead in front of him. And that's very unexpected. You see the damage on the car in front. the Aston Martin. So now he's got splitter damage as a result, and that does cause lack of top end speed. So if we go forward, so this car here, he's now got, and the car in front of him. So these guys have got splitter damage, and when you damage this bottom splitter, you lose top end speed. It causes a bit of extra drag, or mitigates the aerodynamics of the car, and you get less top end speed. And we can see the same with this car here. If I can pull through. So he's also got splitter damage there too. So all these cars are going to be down on top end speed. Lead car got away with it. So yeah, definitely got to be careful of that. The correct way to warm up your tyres, as been proven in that video that was shared in our league, is to weave. Let's try and find a good example of weaving. Let's just see if anybody's weaving. No, okay. All right, so the good example of how to warm up your tyres is to just move ahead of the car in front of you, or if you're the car, if you're the odd numbers, you're the car on pole, you move ahead. If you're the even numbers, you just drop back a little bit, and then you can use the whole track, and you can weave left and right. Let's see if any of these guys do it actually. Anyone weaving? They might do it a bit later. Let's have a look. No one's weaving here either. Okay, so very interesting. So nobody's trying to warm up their tires, and that's not good. So that means you're going to be going starting lap 1 with cold tires, and that's where a lot of chaos happens. So you'll just move ahead of the car next to you. If they're not letting you move ahead, then just let them know what you intend to do, and then they'll pull behind and understand. But at this point here, you can start weaving left and right. Car behind has dropped back a little bit. He can start weaving left and right. And you just pretty much want to go from left side of the track to right hand side of the track. Big, slow weaving, and that will progressively warm up your tyres and give you the best tyres for lap 1 that you can get. Riding your brakes is good for brake temperature, but it does also increase tyre pressure. And apparently high tyre pressure with low tyre temp is not good. You get less grip. But it definitely helps to warm up your brakes a little bit so that you're not going too deep into the braking zones. All right, so that happened here. And it's also important to, when you're a driver on track, try to get out of the habit of addressing other drivers on track. So try not to tell them what to do. Try not to, coach, advise, educate, yell, get mad, things like that. You need to talk to race control. So when things are happening, so that car behind who got contacted then needs to radio through, hey, race control, can you ask, can you check what happened there? And race control will jump on and they'll say, yep, the car in front of the queue, please don't check up like that. If you're going to brake, just do minor, let race control manage it. Because as a driver, you can't see the whole picture. You don't know what's happening. And sometimes maybe it's not the front car. Maybe something else has happened and the front car's had to check up for some reason. Then you can inform everybody, like, just be aware, this is what happened. Rear car, you need to leave more gap. You need to leave more space. You need to react quicker. We don't know who's at fault. So it's important to talk to race control because they have the overhead picture, and then they can let everyone know what's happening and how to avoid it and mitigate it happening again. All right, let's get to the race start. So this was very messy. So okay, so we can see here. I'll just go back a little bit more. You can see 3 cars go on green. Everybody else is a bit slow to get going. There you go. You can see the black Porsche at the front, the yellow Mustang, and the red, I think that's a Porsche. They all go, and then the other cars then start going. Like, look at the speed difference already. And we're not even, 3 seconds into the race. And then as a consequence, Oops, too many. As a consequence, we end up nearly 5 wide before we even get to turn 1. So there's a lot to unpack here, and this is very critical, and this is for everybody now. So there's a little bit for our league, and in regards to sportsmanship, there's a little bit too much aggressive driving here, and too much opportunity trying to be taken. So we're going to go through a lot of these cars and talk about what they've done and what they're doing and what they need to be doing to try and avoid this sort of stuff happening. So let's start at the front. So this car at the front needs to go on green. They either need to anticipate it, or they need to initiate it. The lead car, as soon as, and not many people know this. Oh, that's right. So the complication here is that the LMP3s take over and then the GT4s drop right back. So they're not behind the safety car. So what you need to appreciate here is that once that safety car has crossed that yellow line, the yellow cones, you are now in control of the race and you can go whenever you're ready. So some of these cars might not understand or appreciate this. As soon as that safety car has crossed that line, you're free to go. And so what this lead car needs to be doing is as soon as he's ready, he needs to go. And ideally, they need to go early so they get the jump on the rest of the field. Like this is your opportunity as pole sitter to get the jump on the field. If you get a black flag, if you ever get a black flag for this, just let race control know, hey, look, I've been black flag. Can you check that? If you're okay with it, clear it. If not, I'll take the drive through. Race control will probably turn around and say, look, that was okay. It was a little bit early. Just next time, don't go so early. Or, you know what, that was very early. We're going to clear your black flag, but we want you to drop to the end of the line, and then keep racing. So there's, race control has a lot of options there, to try and mitigate or manage what's happened. But in most cases, it'll be, look, the game just thought you went a bit early. We think that's fine. We'll clear your black flag. You're good to go. So yeah, ideally you want to be going as soon as possible once that safety car has crossed those yellow cones. And then so you get your jump and you clear the field, because what's going to happen is once you go, the rest of the field are going to go. In this case, everybody waited for the green flag, and then now it comes down to reaction time. So you can see the 3 cars that get going, they've got really good reaction time. Whereas the other cars were a bit slow. Maybe they were in too high a gear or something. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but they're very sluggish to get going. I believe this car was also trying to let everybody pass. So if we just fast forward, you can see that they let everybody pass and then they tuck in behind. So in AES, we're updating the rules today, which is going to say that if you are the lead car on the reverse grid and you don't want to be there, you can fall back under, on the formation lap. You're allowed to now fall back to the back of the pack. So if you don't want to be at the front, then you may fall back. We're not going to force people to stay out there who don't want to be there. And this will hopefully mitigate people trying to let people go at the start of the race. All right, a lot to unpack here, so let's get onto it. Let's start. We'll go from the front, work our way to the back. So, like I said, front car, you need to go as soon as you see the safety car inside past those yellow cones, you are free to go. So anywhere from here to the checkered line, the start line, you're free to go. So ideally, you want to go as soon as possible. The car to your left, so P2, they need to go on the lead car. So they want to be up alongside like he is. And as soon as that car goes, they want to go so that everybody's moving together. In this case, like went green and he went. So that's perfect. This car has done a perfect start. All right, let's talk about this car. So from the get-go, ideally on a rolling start, everybody needs to be in single file. When you're out like this, you're being overly aggressive, and it's poor sportsmanship in a league like this. So you shouldn't be aiming to get the jump on the car ahead on a restart. That shouldn't be your goal. Your goal should be to get a clean start and hold your line to let everybody filter out into a single file, and then get into the fights and into the battles. At the moment, we allow this, so we don't penalise this sort of activity, but we would ask everybody to be a bit more sportsmanship, and just keep in that queue. So you can see that he is immediately trying to fill into that gap there. He wants to go. He doesn't want to wait. He doesn't want to get caught behind his car. And so we're coming back to that being too desperate and driving too desperately. And then what cars could be doing though to try and help block this and mitigate this is that this car here could be much tighter to this car on the inside. If he was much tighter, then the car behind wouldn't have the opportunity to try and go up the middle. So when you leave the door open like this, it gives people the opportunity, and then when they see the opportunity, they want to go for the opportunity, because that's what racing is about. You're trying to fill every gap that you can. So to mitigate people diving up the inside, close the door. Move across and stay tight to the car next to you. Let's see if I can find a spot where he's actually probably in the right spot. Yeah, the whole way around is very wide, which is fine. You're doing your warm up. That's fine. But yeah, at race start, you want to be right next to them. And a good indicator, based on this single screen here, what I like to do is right here. See how wide he is here. If he moved across, he could keep an eye on that front tire on his monitor, but he'd also be up along further. So see how far back he is here. If he moved across, he could be much further up and still keep an eye on the nose of that car. So that's something to consider as well, so that you don't have to try and guess. If you're alongside, if you're on a single monitor, you don't have to guess. You can move over and you can see them, and you keep that nose of their car. You keep that on your screen, and then you know exactly where they are. And then, like I said, if you move across to the right and keep tight with them, not too tight when echo might be an issue, but certainly much tighter than this, and then also close that door to the cars behind trying to sneak through the pair of yous. All right, so this car, very opportunistic. As soon as that light goes green, he's gone through the middle. Look, he makes it cleanly, so there's no issues there. He's passed on the outside, as long as you're not passing on the inside. Passed on the outside. You can see that car behind us dropped all the way back, so it's nothing wrong with what this car has done here. A little bit aggressive, but he's fine because he's gotten past and all sorted. And then kept this line a little bit wide on entry there. It needs to be a bit tighter. Maybe he's not sure where the other car is. But yeah, definitely a little bit wide there. Okay. All right, we're not up to this car yet. All right, this car here. Let's jump on board. All right, this car needs to be tighter. So see how that car on the right is much tighter. You can see that, he can barely see, his bonnet is in line with the top of the rear boot there. And then jump back a car, you can see that, he's much further back. So you want to be much tighter in this space here. The second car wants to be right there. So as soon as that car goes, you'll see it much quicker, and then you'll be able to get onto it much quicker and maintain that gap to that car. And then you're doing two things here. You're watching the car in front, but you're also watching the car on the right, that pole position car, because as soon as they go, then that's your cue to go with that car in front of you. So being a bit tighter there would be helpful. And then obviously they missed the start a little bit, or they might have been up a gear. I don't know if we can see the gears. Yeah, he's in second gear. Second gear seems like the right gear. But yeah, maybe just a bit slow on the start. All right. So nothing wrong with this car. Nothing there they can do better. Just maybe just a bit tighter to the car in front. And unfortunately, the pole car didn't go early enough, so then it caused a lot of confluffle. All right, this car. All right, this is an issue. So same thing as the other car on the right. They want to clear these cars as soon as possible. So as soon as they hear green, they go, and they got to go around the outside. This is fine, except that car has now seen a car go up their inside. So this green one has now seen someone come up their inside, and now he's moved slightly left, oh my God, if I can speak, slightly left, so that he can leave room for this car. So he's doing the right thing, and he's trying to leave room. This car behind needs to yield. So he goes to go. There's no room. He needs to yield. So this car needs to get off the throttle, and they need to tuck back in. They're not going to get the overtake done. But for some reason, they stay flat, and they're trying to overtake off track. So in the future, so this is going to be in the updated rules. So in the future, if this was to happen again, this car would be penalized, end of line penalty probably, straight off the line. So this is not okay, trying to overtake off the track like this. And then as a consequence, and I'll show you what happens, they've now got mismatched tyres. They've got their right tyres are clean, their left tyres are dirty. So they managed to get back on, slight contact there, because again, there's more cars coming through, so this car is trying to leave room for the cars coming through. Maybe not expecting this car to be here. I'm not sure what this car is seeing. He should know that they're there, but maybe because he's heard car, 3 wide or something, he doesn't know exactly where they are, especially if they're on a single monitor. So slight bump. He checks out of it eventually. So contact, checks out of it, now tucks back in. This is way too late. So now the consequences of what's happened here is they have dirty tyres, and then you can see there, they have a little squirrely moment. And now, because they're squirrely, the right side has more grip than the left. It's pulled the car to the right and now put it into the path of the other cars coming through behind. So he had it right, and then the car pivots, he corrects, but not enough, and then they make contact. So this contact and this whole crash right here, 3 cars involved, is all because of this restart and trying to go around the outside off the track. So big no-no, this one. So to mitigate this happening, what he needs to do is at this point here, goes to go, door gets shut, needs to lift off. He should already be off the throttle, backing off, getting back on track, tucking back in. So yeah, to mitigate, just back off, tuck back in and keep going. He ends up having to do that anyway, so they're not making any gain here, but then yeah, it's the flow-on consequences. Making contact here, so an innocent car has been taken out. He got lucky then not to get an extra touch. That's very, very close there. No, millimeters on that one. So any sort of net code again, that would have contacted him and that would have spun him around. And then again, as a consequence, he's off track again. So now he's got dirty tyres again. And if you try and brake heavy with dirty tyres, you're going to most likely spin out again. All right, so that's that one. Let's have a look at this car now. Let's see how they go. All right, they're in queue, they're in line, they're doing really well. Okay, good. So they hold their line. This is a good example. They hold their line. A car's coming up on their left. They wait. Once that car is clear, they move across. And then they tuck in behind, and they're not trying to push any harder. Keep their line tight. And good. All right, so that's a really good example of this car here. And we'll show that from the outside. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. So, stays in queue. Green flag. Gets going. Car on the right is slow, so it goes around the outside. Checks up, brakes early, gives plenty of room. And then keeps it tight, giving the car on the outside plenty of room. All right, good example of that, man. Well done. Okay, who is next? All right, this Mustang. All right, so you can see that they intended to go left, but then they saw a car on their left, so they had to come back in. So they had to tuck back in. So this is good patient racing. Tuck back in. Now it's clear. Now they can have a look around the outside. That car came out, so then he moves to the right. And just gives everybody plenty of room. That car checks up, so he moves back to the right. The problem here with this is it's too much movement on track. So yes, it's a small field here, and yes, he's at the back of the queue and he knows that, so he's got lots of room. But if there was another same 8 cars behind this car, he wouldn't be able to move around like this. He would have to hold his queue and just be patient. If he moved across like that, it's potentially that he would contact another car. And then same again, moving across. He's gone from the right side of the track all the way over to the left. Car is coming back on track and he's back into the middle. So he's gone from the right to the left, back to the middle. It's too much moving around. What they should be doing is following the car in front. Even if they got a bad start, these guys, this is reverse grid. So these are the quick guys at the back. They should have the confidence and the knowledge that they have the pace to catch the cars ahead. So it's important for these guys to be patient early on and then use their pace to work their way through the field progressively, one car per lap sort of thing, sort of mentality, and work their way to the front. They shouldn't be winning this race. They shouldn't even be on the podium because there should be other cars who have enough pace to stay out front that these guys may be able to catch up to, but just don't have enough time to make the pass. Generally, they do. They do have the pace to get to the front, but they need to be aware that that's not their goal. The goal here isn't to get to the front. Their goal is to get as far up the queue as they can, whilst being safe and considerate of others. So moving around as much as they do is a bit much. So at this point here, car's blocking his move to the left. So just tuck in behind. Just tuck in behind the car in front. If you just follow the car in front, who knows, because that Porsche was still there. So he still would have ended up mid-track in any case, but he may not have been this far over. If he followed, he probably would have been a little bit tighter to the Porsche in front. But by the looks of it, there was no avoiding this one, unfortunately. But again here, so when this car comes back on, if they just lift it off and just followed, rather than trying to send it 3 wide into the T1, if they just lift it off, there would have been room for that car to make mistakes in front on the left there. They would have had room to regain and regather this car. And then this car behind, once they regained it, probably could have gone up the inside and then made the pass. So yeah, driving to survive. So understanding that, even though there's an opportunity there, it's just you've got to be patient on race start and try not to send it 3 wide in the T1. All right, and then final car on the restart, and this one is pretty important. So this car goes from last to almost first within 2 corners. That's too aggressive, way too aggressive. So this car needs to be more patient. This car needs to ease up. And again, back of the queue, one of the fastest cars on track, as proven in practice and qualifying. So they need to have the confidence that they have the pace, that they have the racecraft, the skill, that they're going to work their way through the pack progressively and not to try and do it at the start of the race. So already they're gaining on the car in front, so they're a little bit behind here, so they're slowly gaining. And then they're just sending it. So, and as a consequence of them sending it, it's amplifying what is happening to other people on track. So if he stayed behind, the green Mercedes, so this car here, could have moved over to the right a little bit. But instead, his mirrors are full and he's seeing a car on the left, he's seeing a car on the right. He knows he's got a car on the inside somewhere, as in the pink Porsche. So he's trying to hold his line and do the right thing. But if this Mustang hadn't been so aggressive on the race start, then the Mercedes may have been able to move across a bit earlier, and the Porsche would be able to get back on track and then not been off track for so long. Again, the Porsche shouldn't have been so aggressive as well. But it's just generally in this scene, just way too much aggression for a race start. Way too much. And we just need these guys to ease up a little bit. So as you can see, he just sends it. This could have been risky if the yellow Mustang didn't see him coming down low. Because again, ideally you'd be going around the outside of the car in front of you, not the inside on race start. So, he should be following the red Porsche and aiming to go around the outside of the Porsche. Can't go around the outside because he's off track, so then he has to just tuck in behind. But instead he sees a big opening up the middle and then just goes for it. If this yellow Mustang didn't realise that he was coming down there, at this point here you can barely see him, and now you can see him. If he was already committed to that path or already had some overlap on the Aston Martin, this would have been an incident back here in any case. But luckily the yellow Mustang is switched on. And same with the green, like he gives everyone plenty of space, he works his way through safely, but it's just too aggressive. And then it's just the consequences of being so aggressive is amplifying what's happening around. And that's what we need to try and ease up on. Alright, so we've seen the contact in the rear. And that was the incident behind. Alright, now we've got an incident in the front. So this is a big one. Okay, car on the inside has come from P3. It's an equal start to P2. Keeps it tight to the apex. But here. Alright, at this point, there is no room for the car on the outside. Even though they have room off track there, the off track rule for this track is if you put 2 tyres outside that white line, you'll get an off track. So the yellow Mustang has not left the black Porsche enough room on track. So back here he lets his wheels start to straighten out. This is where it goes wrong. So he's letting the car wash out because he's, again, being too aggressive and not being considerate. So he's pushing hard. He pushes out too wide, like he's way too wide here. If the front car had addressed this, had raised this race control, this would have been a penalty for this car. But because it wasn't raised, it wasn't penalised. So they contact, and he effectively pit maneuvers the car. So you can see that he's even got his tyres outside the white line. So he's absolutely no regard for this car on the outside. And this is very poor form from our league. This is unsportsmanlike. And then he spins him. And then what I'm curious about the most is I can't really hear if he's off throttle, but it sounds like he doesn't really get off throttle. So there's a few different mindsets here. He could be trying to straighten out the car. So you can see that he actually does effectively straighten him out. So that could be a considerate thing he's doing for the other car, saying, oh shit, I accidentally spun you, I'm sorry. Let me straighten you out. So then what he does is he keeps not into the throttle so hard, but just gently pushes at the car to try and straighten him out. And he does it. He does it effectively and gets that car straightened out. So yeah, too wide. So to mitigate this from happening, he's tight to the apex here, but he needs to wait on throttle because it's cold tyres. So if he throttles too hard, it's going to lift the front end. It's going to push that car wide. He also needs to keep the wheel turned. He's letting the car straighten out too much and wash too wide. So he's expecting that car to go off track there, but he can't do that. He needs to leave room. So it needs to be mid-track at best. And I think there's an example behind. Yeah, see the green Mustang behind? So he is mid-track, and look how much room he leaves on the outside there for the cars, in case there's a car there on the outside. So, yeah, this yellow Mustang, too aggressive, too wide, and needs to be in. For the car ahead, there's not much he can do. He's left a lot of room there. He's gone wide. He's pretty much gone off track to allow enough racing room and then been contacted. So this car, unfortunately, there's not much you can do about this situation. If you wanted to try and mitigate this completely, if you notice that there's an aggressive car coming up your inside, he could be lifting off and letting that car through. So if he's concerned about this car taking him out, he could let him through. But he shouldn't have that concern at all. Not in our league, not with our rules. He shouldn't have that concern at all. So he's done everything right, driven out to the outside, plenty of room, and then unfortunately been contacted. Car behind needs to leave more room. Now this flows on. So he straightens him out. And then this is what I was talking about, this car out the front, gone from last to now first. He is now in the lead of the race. Now we're in T2. Now we're nearly 4 wide again. And again, a lot to unpack here. So let's go through this bit by bit. So cars ahead. So when you're getting spun and maneuvered like this, you're not really looking at track furniture. You're not really paying attention to the road, apart from where you're trying to drive the car in regards to a direction. So he's sideways, he's straight, and now he's got to think, oh shit, where am I on track? Where is my braking mark? And how fast am I going? So he's got a lot to try and process here. And then as a result, he has missed his braking mark. Oh, freaking hell. Sorry, I've changed my buttons around, so I'm trying to keep up with my systems. So he's missed his braking mark. You can see car on the left is braking. Car on the right starts braking. So I make gearbox set up. Here we go. And then now he starts braking. So he's definitely missed the mark on the braking. And then as a result, he goes deep. And he can't pull the car up. And he's washed the car ahead. He's pushed them off track. So the mitigation here is to, once you regain, need to, just stay off the throttle. I think he's gaining speed. Yep. Yeah, gaining speed. You got to stay off the throttle. You got to regroup, get your bearings, and then get back into the race. Once you've been sort of spun or taken out like this, you get like what's called a red mist, where you get frustrated and angry, and you just want to get back in the fight. You want to retaliate without being seen to be retaliating, things like that. That's very common, but you got to sort of take that breath and ease up and just have the patience. Say, oh shit, all right, I've been taken out. I need to work out what's happening on track, work out who's around me, and not take somebody else out. And then I need to report this to race control. So very important for our drivers to report these things as they happen. Not sure why this didn't get reported, because it was he did nothing wrong and got taken out. And then the car ahead did report this incident because he got pushed off track. And then the consequence of this was the Porsche didn't redress after washing wide and pushing that car off track. So you can see here, there's no way he's going to pull that up, and there's no racing room on the outside there. Didn't redress, and unfortunately got a post-race penalty. So the key here was not that he pushed them off track. Accidents happen, mistakes happen, especially if you're in the thick of battle and yourself being spun and pushed. That's fine. But if you do interfere with another driver and disadvantage them, then you must redress, or you must, basically you must redress. You must give that position back. And sort of that's when you redress, that's saying, oh shit, I'm sorry, mate, I didn't mean to do that. And then we can all move on. All right, let's have a look at the car on the inside here. Okay, so this car has spun them out, and then he accelerates again. So again, coming back to sportsmanship, you've made a mistake. You need to sort of yield at this point here. And you need to yield and sort of, again, a yield is an apology. It's like, oh shit, sorry, mate, I didn't mean to spin you out there. Let me give you that spot and I'll tuck in behind. But instead, this car decides to continue to be aggressive. Maybe he didn't know where he was on track as well. Maybe he's focused on the car and loses his place. And he goes, oh shit, the corner's here, and then starts braking. We don't know what the mindset of the drivers is, and that's something that I was reminded of because I have a bad habit of talking in that space. But yeah, you need to yield, and just that, like I said, that yield is that apology. So yield that position, let them back through, and then continue the race. But again, as a consequence of staying in it, he doesn't make contact again there. But yeah, it's just staying in that position there is leaving no room for others to maneuver around. Nothing wrong with what he's doing. It's just overly aggressive, that's all. Certainly no penalty at this stage after the initial contact. And he gets a clean break through there and off he goes. That's all fine. That's racing. We are happy with that. We accept turn 2. But we would just like to see a bit more sportsmanship in our league. All right, let's jump onto this car, and this is important. Okay, like we said, last to first. He's coming down here. He's seen this guy spinning out, and he should be checking up. Yep, he's checking up. Goes around the outside. Then this is a bit of a fatal mistake here. So he's turned in. So you can see that he's out wide here. Then what he's done is he's turned across and shut that door down. I'm not sure if they thought they might have been clear or didn't realise they were 3 wide, because I believe he's left enough room. Yeah, there's plenty of room there for one car, but he is 3 wide at this stage. So, and he should still be hearing 3 wide. And then as a consequence of the middle car, the black Porsche, missing their braking zone in all the confluffle, I keep saying that, I don't understand it right. If he was wider, forget about the green Mustang, green Mercedes for the moment. If he was wider, it might have mitigated him being sideways here and may have been able to pull this car up before being pushed off track. So if he stayed a bit wider, instead of turning in and across the nose, then he could have survived this for himself. But yeah, like I said, he's moved across. We'll do the slow motion. He's moved across to mid-track, contacted with the car behind who has missed their braking mark. Again, unintentional mistake. It's not a malicious act. It's unintentional. And then as a result, there's no more room here, whether it's braking, turning, or track. There's no more room to make any adjustments. The only adjustment he can make is he can throttle, but if he does that, he's going to spin out. So you need to leave yourself, when stuff's going wrong, cars are spinning on your inside, you've got to stay heaps wide. But then, now look at the next element of this. So now let's put the green Mercedes into play. If the Mustang didn't move across, that Mercedes probably would have got him in the rear in any case. You can see that there's overlap there. In fact, I think there might be simultaneous contact. Yeah, there is. There's simultaneous contact there. So it's probably less the car on the inside at fault, probably more the car on the outside, but we'll try not to talk about fault. But yeah, that car on the outside has also absolutely missed their braking mark somehow. Let's jump on them. Here we go. Let's grab their brakes. So coming up, so they're braking just here. Oh, interesting. They're actually braking before everybody. Okay, so this changes the story. So in this case, it's a matter of not braking hard enough. So he's broken early to try and wash off a bit of speed behind the cars in front. But then once those cars in front have broken, those cars in front have broken really hard, really fast, the car behind hasn't been able to react quick enough and brake as hard as the car is in front. So then, but he was never going to make that corner anyway, so that's interesting. So maybe he was watching the other cars, not paying attention to the track and not paying attention to his speed. So yeah, this car did the right thing braking early by the looks of it. Somewhere here, there it is. Oh, it's only a fraction early, so yeah, it's only a fraction. So, but just by the sound of it, hasn't broken hard enough. So he's maybe a bit too casual coming into this, expecting these guys to maybe go a bit deeper. But yeah, by the looks of it, he was never going to make this corner. And that could be cold tires, that could be cold brakes, that could be a lot of things there. All right, so again, mitigation, cold tires. He's got a good run out of T1. Car's spinning. So let's jump on board. Car's spinning ahead. He should be lifting off. But no, instead, he's still flat out. Still flat out. Still flat out. And then brakes. So yeah, again, so the same thing as race 1. Once you see cars start spinning out, you need to lift off and just ease up. If you've got a car up your butt, which he doesn't at the moment, but he probably would have in a usual race, then when you lift off, it's not all the way off, it's just off a little bit to try and wash off a bit of speed so you've got better control over the car if something else goes wrong. For example, if one of these cars, maybe the Porsche spins the Mustang across his nose now and flings him across the track, then that Mercedes needs to be able to have time to react and pull the car up, etc. But yeah, and then mitigation for this car, like I said, just staying wider, understanding that there's cars on the inside playing silly buggers. Just stay wider for longer. Try not to come across like this, especially when you hear 3 wide. Just stay wider for longer, and then follow pretty much the outside of the track. Let's see if we can find somebody who does that. There you go. So this car, still more room on the outside, but they follow around the outside of the track, known as a car on the inside. Not sure exactly where they are. They've now lost them, and gives plenty of room. All right, so yes, very chaotic T1 and T2 for race 2. A lot of factors involved here, from missing the start, being overly aggressive, trying to send it around off track, not keeping it tight when you're 2 wide, cutting across the track when you're 3 wide. There's a lot of factors going on here. And the thing that is going to mitigate all of this is be patient, hold your line. You don't do those 2 things, and we will all get through these corners together. And then once everybody shakes out in a single file, then the race is on. And then so if somebody makes a mistake on the outside, then you'll get the position on the inside, and vice versa, until you get it clear room, and then you can move across and and then own that and dominate that position. But until then, everybody should be 2 wide, holding their line, etc. And then, like I said, to try and mitigate from the AES admin perspective, we want to try and mitigate this sort of thing from happening in the future. So as an as a strategy-wise, we're going to introduce a rule where if the front cars want to get out of the front, they don't have to start from pits. They can just drop to the end of the line in the formation lap and just jump on the rear onto the back of the pack. All right, next incident. Okay, so we got a car up ahead off track. So this is a self-spin on cold tires. But what they've also got to understand is they've also picked up a bit of debris here too. So I think maybe a prototype's gone off, or maybe just the replay is just leaving it on track. But cold tires, coming in, driving very fast, loses control. But does the right thing, is patient, waits for all the cars to pass, and then gets re-going. So that's a really good rejoin. It's frustrating, but yeah, you've got to be patient, and they've done the right thing here. I think the car behind also had an issue. Yep, they had a spin. So they're the ones that got tangled up on T1. Coming around quite wide, so picking up some of this dirt and debris. So when you're on board and you're coming around, you see, oh yeah, that's a lot of... Oh yeah, look out, that's marbles for this car. So cold tires on debris, that's just marbles. Trying to get going and spins. Rears into the wall, gets a bit of damage, and then cracks on. So yeah, important when you see dirt and debris on track, just to be easy on the throttle. And I appreciate that if you're still turning, you know, that's still 2 o'clock. If you're still turning hard, just to be easy on the throttle until the car is straight. And then even straight on debris, you still want to be easy on the throttle because you don't know if it's going to spit on you. All right, next incident. All right, so this is just cold tires. These Porsches seem to be renowned for losing their rear end. So we might have a look. I might ask Sam if you wouldn't mind having a look at a setup for these guys just to make them more safe. Is he stuck? No, he's just waiting. All right, so that's a good rejoin. So again, self-spin. Let's go on the track on the side. Self-spin. Comes to a stop, holds his brakes, waits for everybody to pass. Went to go, realised another car coming, stopped. One more car coming, and then off he goes. So he didn't have to wait that long. He could have rejoined on the right-hand side of the track there, but that is good. That's a good rejoin. It's safe and it's cautious. Alright, so this looks like a reaction to the car in front. So coming down the hill, car in front gets loose. Maybe they just both got loose together. So maybe there's oil on the track. Well, that's what you'd be asking in real life anyway, but I got a feeling it's just cold tyres. Oh yeah, you can see the rear end, let's go. And then the car in front as well. Just losing that rear end again. Yeah, very weird. I'm not sure what's happening to these guys. But we'll have a chat with them anyway and try and coach and educate. Try and understand what's going on. And then next lap, same thing again by the looks of it. So that's all fine. And yeah, it's on throttle. And unfortunately, they try and get back into it while they're off track. So it's important that if you go off track, you don't want to be off throttle. You just sort of want to be just, you know, like 10-20% throttle just to maintain momentum and get the car back on track. It would have been fine if you just kept one wheel off track. It probably would have been fine. But as soon as you got two wheels off, you can see the rear end lets go. And then the reaction is just a little bit too late. And then around he goes. Alright, you can see that nobody's coming, so that's fine. Rejoin is fine. Yeah, looks like this car has struggled at this point the whole race, unfortunately. And then being patient. Yeah, what is happening to this car? So we're definitely going to have to help this guy out. Alright, what's happened here? Oh, yep, so this is a pretty common one. So gone for an over-under. So car behind. Is it over-under? Who's making the pass? Okay, the car behind is making the pass. Car in front doesn't defend. Car behind goes up the inside. Doesn't quite get there, but the car in front still leaves room because maybe they're not sure exactly where they are, so they leave rooms because they don't want to be taken out. That's good. Car on the inside gets the overtake up in front. And now what the car on the outside wants to do here is an over-under. And they're trying to set up so that they brake a bit earlier, but they focus on a late apex. And they want to turn in on the inside of this car and then try and get up the inside and get 2x2 again. Unfortunately, the car in front is a bit slower for some reason. Maybe they're washing out. So because they're washing out, they're easing up off the throttle. Let's have a look at their speed or the RPMs. Oh, you can't see it. Yeah, you can still see they're off throttle still, trying to get that car to turn. So they're struggling with understeer. And then the car behind accidentally makes contact, trying to get up the inside, expecting them to be on throttle. So important in this regard. So if you do accidentally make contact like this, if that car in front spun, it's important that you would redress. Car behind had to regain control of the car anyway, and then I just saw an apology on the chat, so that's a good thing. So just apologise, like saying, hey, I tried to make a move, it didn't work, sorry about that. Let's crack on. So that's a good one. What's happening here? All right, this one, same. So expecting the car in front to be up the inside, but the car in front's just being overly cautious because the GT4 is still tight. So car in front's just waiting for the gap to open so he can go up the inside. Car behind just misjudges it, expects them to get going because it looks like the door's open, and then gets, trying to anticipate the car in front accelerating, so he accelerates and then makes contact. There's no real consequence of it, but again, just a quick apology, and then, if they spun them, then we would expect a redress. Now, interestingly, they're very tight to the car on the right here. So this might be a situational thing. They might think that they're actually on that white line there, but in reality, oh no, it's the car behind. Okay. All right, so the car behind's being opportunistic. So then this car is staying middle of the track to try and give room for the car behind. But again, as soon as that car behind touches grass, runs out of racing room, they need to lift, which I'm pretty sure they do. Let's jump on board here. 62, I'm just watching the RPM, 64. Yep, they did a little lift just then. There you go, yep. So they maintain their speed, little lift, and they tuck back in, and they should be tucking in behind. So a critical thing here is that you don't want to impede the car in front of you again if there's another car in front of them. So you want to try and maintain the gap to the lead car, and you want to show the car in front of you. If you're yielding and you're not trying to get past, you want to show them you're doing that. So what you do is you tuck right back in behind them and say, look, I'm not putting pressure on that. You can move back over so you can be fast, so I can be fast, so we can catch that car in the front. But you can see, yeah, he yields back in, comes back in, and through he goes. So no dramas there. But that was the right thing to do, so he yielded instead of trying to go around the outside. And then I think this is the end of the race. I'm not sure why they're so slow here. So it's important that when you finish your race that you keep going around the first corner again. Not sure why the front car is slowed right up. But this car here is trying not to go past, so I don't have to do an extra lap. And then cars behind, they're still full speed, so... Yeah, not sure... Unless this car's out of fuel. Are they running out of fuel? No, I'm not sure. Have they run out of fuel? I don't hear it coughing or spluttering. Maybe they did. Oops. Yeah, maybe they did. I'm not sure. But yeah, very important to make sure you flat out all the way to the line, and then once you hit the line, then you lift off, and then head through the corner. So the risk here is, although the race is done, the risk here is that for this car coming through, well, not even for them, for this car, if they're not ready for that, and you've got a direct drive wheel, 15, 18, 20 Newton meters, if they hit you unexpectedly, that could shake that wheel out of your hand, and that could do you a lot of physical damage. So you can hurt your thumb, you might break might have a finger out trying to do something, and then all of a sudden the wheel catches your finger. You might, you could be leaning forward to do something. You might be trying to change something, press a button, or, do something, you might be leaning forward and your face might be next to your wheel, and that wheel, whacks you in the face. You got to be very careful with direct drive wheels, and make sure you don't ever make contact. Back in Old Mate Racing League, we used to have fun at the end of the race and used to slam into each other. But yeah, somebody got hurt, and then we had to stop doing that. So very important just to finish the race properly. And what we're going to try and start doing is a cool down lap. Not for any reason, not to try and make sure everybody's got enough fuel to get back to the pits or things like that, but just so that we can catch the guys who finish the race for our broadcast. And what we like to do, so let's say, let's jump to the car here. Let's say this was the winner of the race. So they come through, they win the race. We're on TV2. We'll go back through everybody, go back through the order. Congratulate everyone as they cross the line. And then what we like to do is try and find that car again. I think it was this person. And then we like to slow it down and then just, do a little bit of spiel about that car. Congratulations on winning the race, show off your livery and things like that. So if you go across the line and then pull up and stop and then retire, you're not going to get an opportunity to be on stream. So yeah, it's important that you do your cool down lap. If you run out of fuel, just go as far as you can. Just take it easy, come back to pits. And if you run out of fuel, just stop on track and just wait on track for a bit. If you win the race, definitely do burnouts because we love seeing burnouts. So I'm pretty sure somebody was doing burnouts. I think it was this car. Here we go. Yeah, we love burnouts. So if you want to stop and do a burnout post-race, get into it. It's up to other cars to avoid you. But yeah, we love watching burnouts post-race. This is one of our favourite things to do. So yeah, get into it. If you're on the podium, go out and do burnouts. Even if you're not on the podium, go and have some fun post-race. Shake off all that anxious energy that you got from the race and whatnot. And yeah. All right, that's it for us today. So we just wanted to make sure we went through this and talked through everything. Again, it's more about mitigation than blame. I did talk about a few things in regards to sportsmanship. But yeah, very important that, we are being considerate of others on track because you don't want to come home from a long day's work and then jump in a sim to unwind and have some fun, just to be taken out by someone being overly desperate. When there's no reward here. There's no reward for coming first, apart from some points that go to a championship, again, that there's no reward for. So we're not racing for ship stations, we're not racing for money, we're not racing for, trophies and medallions. We're just here having fun. We're a social development league, and it's important that everybody drives in accordance with that. Admin are going to change a few things just to try and help encourage that. We don't want to put too many rules in place because we don't want to have too much control and try and penalize everyone for anything. We want to give you guys lots of flexibility to have fun. But we've got to make sure that we're looking after everyone from our lowest rank to our highest ranked drivers, and making sure that everybody's got equal opportunity to enjoy their time. All right, that's it for us. I hope this is received well, and we'll definitely do this again if this sort of thing happens, or if we have another rough race like this one. But yeah, take it on board. Try not to see it as a negative. Take it on board, and yeah, hopefully the racing cleans up from here. All right, thanks everyone.